Peace and greetings.
Greetings, peace and greetings. Hello, peace and greetings. Can you hear me?
Peace and peace and greetings. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, good, good.
Okay. Come
John, I
come
just
come
have a
across
question.
good. Oh, what is that?
I just want to put in the show notes Patrick's last name.
Patrick didn't give me his last name, and he just
Okay.
texted me, and I just texted him. Yeah, he didn't give me his last name.
Well, when hopefully we'll hear from Patrick and we can learn more about Patrick. Okay, I
Well,
just want to
well,
make
I just got in contact with him, and I told him that you had his number, and
okay.
he wanted to know what time. Yeah, so whenever we get finished with Hershey, we can get into it.
Sure.
Actually, I just contacted her. We're not on the air, are we?
Yep.
we okay, Crystal. Okay. Well, tonight's show is going to be a beautiful show, right? I want to start out by saying that while I am not a counselor, I don't have a background in addiction recovery. I do have a background dealing with self detox, which I've been practicing ritualistically for years, and it's my theory that you do a self detox periodically to stop you from being in a position to have to recover from addiction, okay, without being certified or validated, as a counselor. But I've had to practice detox on my own personal self, and I know a lot of other people that do it through different mechanisms, okay. But brother William Berkley, he's the executive director. I want to make sure I get that title right. We'll bring him on and give him an opportunity to speak for himself. But he's the executive director of an addiction recovery unit, a house, down in St. Albans, West Virginia. And I called him shortly before we got on the line, okay, and checked up on him to see whether or not he was ready.
I believe Mr. Berkeley's with
Yeah.
us. Mr. Berkeley,
Yes.
hello.
Is he with us?
Yes, yes, I'm
Hey,
here. Can you
peace,
hear me?
bruh.
Hey,
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me, Hirsch?
yes, I can hear you.
Hirsch? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Listen, it's wonderful to have you on the show tonight, bruh. I've been hearing that you've been doing good work, and tonight's show is on addiction recovery. And I was just explaining that I don't have a background in it, but I do have a background in detox. And from what I understand, detox, you can further elaborate, but from what I understand, detox is part of recovery.
Right.
Yes or no?
That's crucial.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, that's the first step.
Okay.
Without detox,
Okay.
there's nothing else. You have to be able to physically, emotionally, and mentally detox from whatever your addiction is before you even think about the brain adjustments and the dopamine levels that need to be changed. You have to first detox so you don't have that physical sickness in order to be able to have the right brain set to do those things. And detox usually is, in a traditional sense, it's medically. So you'd have to medically go into a detox center. That's what they call it. It depends on what your drug is, depends on how many days you're there, and you get medical clearance, and then you would come to a facility like mine. So we have to get the drug and the physical well-being correct in a medical sense before you can even think about learning educational values or tools to help you fight your addiction.
Understood, bro. I got to ask you this important question for clarity. Are you the founder of Recovery U? Are you the executive? What's your title specifically with Recovery U?
Well, I'm the executive director. I'm the owner. My wife and I started this down here, and as you said, St. Albans, West Virginia, right outside of Charleston. Kind of how I got started is I was what you'd call a peer support specialist, and what that is you're somebody who's had your own problems in the past fighting addictions and the things. It ain't just about the addiction, it's about criminal thinking errors. It's about all kind of just badly just things that just keeps you stuck in this world. So we have to deal with those things first, and I was a peer support specialist handling those type of things. We was a drop-in center. Anybody could walk in off the street. And here where I'm located at, we didn't have any mail facilities. I noticed that every time a mail came through and needed help, I had to drive them far away to get them into any kind of facility. So I brought that up to my wife one day, and we didn't have a whole lot of money actually. And we just took the money that we did have, was very minuscule, worked very hard, and I was able to get a building, needed a lot of work. But I had a couple of friends that seen my vision too, and we worked very hard, got the building up to par. I didn't really know what I was getting into. All I knew was I wanted to help people. I didn't understand health inspectors and fire marshals, and I didn't understand all that when I jumped into this, so I probably wouldn't have did it. But anyway, we came through all that.
But before you go any further, hold on, Brother Hurst.
Yeah.
I need to ask you this. What year did you start with Recovery U?
2018.
2018. I'm talking to you during this interview, but I'm keeping notes. Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you what motivated you, but in your last comments, could you elaborate a little bit more on the motivations and some of the obstructions that you went through, that you might have went through in order to be able to start this recovery program, and also speak on how racism is impacted, how racism impacted you being able to get it, if it did.
Okay. The motivation was, I was born and raised here, as I'm sure you can tell with my voice. And by being born and raised here, Charleston, it means a little bit to me. Wherever you're born and raised, that's home to whoever the individual is. So, and I see we have a real serious drug epidemic here, as the nation knows. It's well documented. And I just was like, I wanted to kind of like get Charleston. I see all the people out here that's going through their struggles, unfortunately. And I just kind of wanted to give back, try to help them. We didn't have a male facility like I mentioned earlier. There was a lot of women places around here, but nothing for men, which was kind of odd. So I wanted to get something for men where we didn't have to drive 2 or 3 hours to get somebody help. Excuse me. So that was kind of like the motivation. Far as what I went through, as far as when you're a business owner, especially here in West Virginia, you're fighting a bunch of hurdles with the race card, so to speak. They look like because I've had my documented past and my struggles in my life. So as far as overcoming that, and as well as being African American here in West Virginia, it was an uphill battle, and I don't think people took me serious in the beginning. So when I would first go in and talk to very important people about what I was trying to do and my vision, they kind of I just didn't seem like I was garnering respect. And I just felt like, I guess I got to get more serious. So what I had to do, I said, well, first of all, I don't look the part. I mean, I didn't go in there wearing sweats and Timberlands all and tied, but I wasn't looking. This is a really big business. It's like a hospital type of environment. It's in the same ramifications of the medical field. So this is a serious business field. So I had to understand that I had to play that same card, because being African American, I knew that I already had one strike. So for them to take me serious, I had to look the part. I had to look just like them. So I went and got me.
You got to be professional.
I had to be professional. I can't, even though I might have had a sweater on and some jeans, it still just wasn't garnering the respect. So I had to go and play the game like that. I had to play the game, so to speak, and it wasn't a game because it's a serious matter. But I had to play the game that they want you. You have to look the part that they want you to look, or they're not going to accept you. So I had to understand that. Right. So I had to go there. I had to go there and do that. So once I'd start dressing appropriately, I knew the next thing that they wanted to hear is not about how I was going to help people. They wanted to hear how much money they could make. I'm just being honest. They wanted to hear about how much money they could make and what it was in it for them.
When you say they, when you say they, are you talking about potential investors
I'm talking about potential investors. I'm talking about landlord owners. I'm talking about medical people, doctors, psychologists, and therapists that I need for a complete, treatment center that I need to have. I'm really trying to do this at a medically professional, psychological kind of, pavement level. So I need these professional people with master's degrees in colleges and accreditations. These are the people that I'm trying to do business with. And I'm learning as I go. I'm very inexperienced at this, but I know what the numbers was. I knew how to do it. My experience let me know that all I know is I can help people. So I got to play the business part of this to be able to do what I really know. So I had to learn it. And that's what I did, and I did it very diligently, and I learned stuff that I didn't know. I didn't never know nothing about tax brackets and IRS and paying Social Security and unemployment and matching the federal government on certain stuff they take out of checks. And, this is all new, and I paid some fines and penalties, and which taught me as I went. So in all that saying all that, I went in, presented myself very well. I already knew how to talk. I was very fortunate enough to have pretty good language and so forth, so they understood what I was saying. But ultimately, I put the money down on graphs and bars on a piece of paper and presented the numbers and what they could make on paper so they could visually see it, and that's when they took it serious. When I was telling them the numbers and stuff, vocally, they didn't kick me out the office, but I can tell they didn't. Well, we'll thank you for your time. We got your card. We'll talk to you if we need to talk to you. And I knew that when I left, I said, I'll never get a call from him. But once I when I documented all the numbers, that was what was in it for them, then they took me seriously and ended up becoming my partner that they are today. So that's what it took for me.
Now, who are your partners? Who did you enter into a partnership with, if I could ask that question?
Yeah. Well, I got numerous partners. First of all, I had to get the building. I have a huge building. It houses 70 people. Got a computer lab, a rec room. I wanted something real nice. I didn't want to just put guys in a crowded building. So I got a pretty sizable building, 10 offices, 7 bathrooms, so forth. I needed that size because I felt like people will learn better, they'll feel better if they're in a good, clean, spacey environment that provides good services. So I had to get the rent owner, the lease owner, and me and him do pretty good. And I just opened up another home, and he owns that house too. So I expanded out a little bit. So I have him, and then I had to get a behavioral health. What that is, a licensed behavioral health center. What that is they're licensed to be able to hire psychologists. They're able to hire support counselors. They're able to hire peer support specialists. Is how I got started. They can hire all those people and build insurances to provide services for them. So that was how I had to finance and support my business. I had to partner up with a licensed behavioral health, and they provided and hired all those people through their license and contracted them out to my building to perform the services. I hope I'm making sense with that. So
yeah,
that's what
we're following you.
So excuse me?
No, I was saying I was able to follow you.
Oh,
go ahead,
okay,
bro.
okay. Okay, and then within that, I got a doctor that does MAT services. MAT services, medically assisted treatment. That's legal now in all states. I'm pretty sure what that is. It's Suboxone. That's a alternative to, instead of shooting up heroin. Suboxone is something that medically you can get legally through an accredited doctor, which is supposed to fight those cravings. So I provide that at my facility, and I have a doctor who comes in and provides that. I got Bridge Valley College. Actually, that starts next week. I'm pretty proud of that, this accomplishment. Accredited college, they're community college. They come in and they're going to start teaching actual college classes at my facility. So those guys can get a college degree and numerous we probably about 25 fields they can probably get a degree in through this college that's coming in. So I'm pretty proud that they can come in, teach some college classes. Guys can get an actual degree there. So I'm partnered with them. And so I'm pretty, viable and different opportunities to try to just have different things. Some guys might want to go to college. Some guys might want to go to vocation school. Some guys just might want to go to work because they got kids in the family and they need money.
That's the question I need to. Now, Hurst, I got to stop you there because there's a question I need to ask you about how what would one expect on a daily? What's your daily routine at Recovery U? If I was a client, what would I expect to go through?
Okay, just to say a weekday. You get up. You got to do your chore. We have chores there, so you get up, get your chore done. Breakfast is served. We 3 meals a day, so you come down. I think breakfast starts at 7 or 7:30. Come down, get your breakfast. We make them get up in the morning. We're trying to teach the value of you get up, get your day started, and get ready to go to work. So we make them get up, make their bed, do chores, eat breakfast. Then we got a class called morning meditation. That's mandatory for everybody. You go in there, and it's just like 20 minutes long. We just get our day started. We talk about the news, the sports, just something to say, good morning, everybody. Let's have a great day and get our day started. So we do that. Then at 9, we got a accredited teacher that comes in, teach a class. Then 10, another class that's kind of optional. Lunch is at 12. Throughout the day, you see a therapist twice a week. So you might, whatever days you see the therapist, that'd be twice a week. And we at dinner's 5. Then we have church services at night. We have NAs throughout the day, two different times of NAs. Have to get 3 NA or AA classes a week. There's a schedule out for that. Whatever day you want to go to that, you can, but you have to have 3. And after you're there 90 days, you can start, if your conduct and behavior has been worthy, I'll let you go home for the weekend after 90 days. So I got motives and good intentions to try to have a step-down program for them to learn stuff and get and reward it. I reward good behavior. That's my motto there. I reward good behavior, and that's what I tell them, and I try to get them to strive towards that.
Hey,
Recovery U is 6 months to a year? Go hold on. Crystal got a question. Hold on.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Hi.
What's the
Yeah, okay. I didn't know.
What's the amount of time? Excuse me. Okay. How long? What's the program at Recovery U? How long usually?
6 months to a year. In 6 months, you have to be there a minimum of 6 months. In 6 months, we'll get the client together. We'll take whoever his counselor is and the people that's been most crucial to his treatment while he was there. We'll sit him in a room and we'll do a teaming. That's what we call it. It's a team of a panel of people to evaluate his progress. And what does he need? Do we keep him longer? Do we make him get a job before we let him go? Do we go ahead and graduate him? And most guys there, they're legally bound to be there. They're court ordered or on parole or on probation. So, the legal judicial system has a say-so on it too.
Miss, can you
go ahead, Crystal?
Oh,
yes,
I can hear you. I see you was trying to get in there, Crystal.
Just trying to get a question in. Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say thanks and welcome for coming on to talk to us. And I'm familiar with Recovery U. It's such a great operation that you have there, and really, really is helping a lot of people. I know that because I'm in recovery in the Valley, and one of my first experiences with the Recovery U, and I'm gonna brag on your guys to you a little bit. At the beginning of the pandemic, when we didn't know what to do, and recovery was really in sort of a holding place because the NAs, AAs, they didn't actually have an online system in the Valley, and people didn't know what to do. And with the help of my sponsor, I sort of sprung up an online meeting, and Recovery U guys would always show up, and then the Recovery House girls and everybody, different people. It wasn't an official meeting. It was just like, we're going to do this meeting until we know what we're doing. And sometimes we would have 80 people in there online or over 100. And the Recovery U guys were always the first to help. And that was even in online capacity. And so I know at a first-class operation that that's happening and serving the community and the public. And I always wondered, as you were ready to talk about it, like someone can't just call you on a phone book and come in.
Right.
I think that's what you're ready to tell us. And so, so you're working directly with the judicial system to bring these fellows in. And, this program is Black by God. We try to center our issues on Black issues. And, I'm sure that you may be the only Black owner of a recovery home in West Virginia.
I'm sure I am.
Yeah, and recovery is really thin in my experience for Black people to participate. And so I was wondering what you're seeing from, having such a direct link to the judicial system. Are people making it into your program?
Very few. Like right now, honestly, I think we have maybe 3 African Americans at my facility. I don't think I've ever had over 5 at no point. At this state, we're the minority at such an alarming rate that, it's just very hard to actually even see many Black faces. Really, just this is the state that we're clearly the minority. So, when you take the numbers of the whole state, I'm not really alarmed by my ratio that comes to my facility is probably about the same as the state is in its number. So I'm not really alarmed by not really getting many African Americans there.
That's
But
interesting to hear. I've always heard a lot of people complain, at least, and I haven't found any data on it, but a lot of people suggest that, Black men are not making it into the drug court system. And if they don't, so then therefore they're not able to participate in programs like yours. Do you think that because the studies show that disproportionately Black men are in prison system in West Virginia, right? So
right.
So I'm wondering if you see, and the other myth is that Black people aren't addicted to drugs, to heroin in Appalachia, West Virginia. And so I'm just wondering if you think that there's a disconnect in the system there with Black people getting treatment.
Actually, when we get a referral and it's a Black guy, usually when they're going in front of the judge, now that you say that, I haven't did the data or know the actual stats. This is just from a field that I've noticed, kind of like keeping up with my human resource team that handles that, and I talk to them about certain things. My feeling is, and I don't have data to support this, it's just my day-to-day operation give me this feel that when a Black guy refers to me and still has to go in front of the judge, it's appearing that he don't get to come because he ends up going to prison because the perception is he's the drug dealer. And mostly whites that gets referred to me, when they go in front of the judge, well, some of them get denied too, don't get me wrong. And I get way more referrals from whites than Blacks, so, I got to be honest about that. But they're the drug addict. So the drug addict gets to come, he needs treatment. The Black guy's the drug dealer, so he goes to prison. And I've seen it to where the facts sometimes are the same. They can have the same facts. I've actually seen it where the white referral might even be in more trouble or has more charges. And he got approved. Now, it'd be 2 judges. I did no data. I don't know about what one judge has done, per Black, per white resident. But I'm sure the cases I'm talking about, they've all had different judges, and different judges, they take whatever situation in when they make these decisions. But now that you say that, it does seem like the Black defendant is the drug dealer and the white guy's the drug addict, and the white guy gets to come. Yep.
Hirsch, I need to ask you a question. What pre-existing model did you have? Was there a pre-existing model in recovery addiction in the area? Name some of the resources or some of the other addiction treatment centers that you might have borrowed from.
Like I mentioned earlier, I was a peer support specialist, which is a fancy name for just a counselor to help people is all it really is. And while I was
trained
doing
for that, did you have to train and get certified for that?
Yes, I had to take a West Virginia certification test for that. It was very difficult and very expensive. I just wanted to, I did it, and I really didn't have to do that to have the job. I just needed it for myself and I just wanted people to know how serious I was, and I just felt like it gave me some credibility. But within doing that job, right? So within doing that job, my boss, when he would talk about stuff, because my boss, I work for an organization that they get grant money. They're state agency. They get grant money to run their operation, and so he operated off of grant. So the state gave him my paycheck. On January, he'd get my paycheck for the rest of the year, so he didn't really worry about making money or nothing because he was getting money to pay his bills and his employees. So while I was there, I learned how he did that, even though I'm not grant funded or haven't got any grants or anything. But that understanding that helped me. It was understanding the grant, how he got grant. It made me understand the profession because he had to deal with certain agencies in order to have something there with substance to help people in recovery. So I learned that. Honestly, just to be forthright, he would throw something in the garbage, and I wasn't too proud to dig it out and read it to understand it. I
hear you, baby.
A couple cases where I did that. Just to be honest,
so you learned
my field.
I'll tell you. So you learned and you studied the process so you could move. So you could move in and do what he was doing.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to do what he did because I just felt like I could do it better. Now, maybe I'm not saying I am. I just felt like I had a different angle, a different dynamic I could provide in this, and I just wanted to try it my way and see what happens.
Yeah. The brother, the guy that you used to work for, what does he think about you and your place now? Does he? I mean, the fact that you're doing now what you used to do.
He's been down there a couple times, and he's a pastor. And he was a good man. I mean, he gave me a start when, I probably 95% of other people wouldn't have. I don't got nothing but great things to say about him. He ain't never did nothing to me but teach me. And, I actually tried to go into this with him. And he just, I didn't have no money or no credibility. And when I approached him about, man, I'd like to start a home and or a facility, and I'd like to do it with you. And he didn't take me serious. And he wasn't really listening to my words, and so I just said, well, I just got to go do it myself. So, and that's kind of what I did.
I feel you. Man, it's a kind of it's a great thing hearing from you because first of all, you're doing black business, and there's a gentleman that we have here in this area that gave me a call number, and he is talking about doing an addiction treatment, something here in the Monongalia County area, right? I think I had spoke to you about that because what you're doing is a model, as far as I'm concerned. And since I think, and Crystal and I talked about this, there should be a specific focus dealing with African Americans, black people, meaning that racism impacts addiction recovery, like it impacts everything. But a lot of times we don't want to come out. Go ahead, Crystal.
I was going to say, I think, just thinking about how, the judge sees, potentially the black man as the drug dealer, not the addict. And I think that in black families and communities, that's not an identity we want to claim. Nobody wants to say, my name's Crystal, I'm an alcoholic, right? Like that's not part of of how you amend that if that's your issue. You know what I mean? Like you don't say I'm an addict and go to treatment. I mean, unless you're really, really bad. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think it's that, because I'm saying that because it's like, whoa, wait a minute, and we all carry addictions and things and behave. That's why when you were talking about, the different, this is really a behavior model. And this is kind of the conversation that needs, it's black mental health. And it's black recovery, and I just want, I just kind of wanted to interrupt there. And did you want me to give Patrick a call, John?
Let me check my. I got a text from him, and I told him that we would be dealing with Mr. Berkley, and that it was important that that you had his number, that we could give him a call. So let me text him. Let me see if he texts me back.
And I wanted to ask.
Okay, he says please do give him a call. So whenever you're ready to give him a call, we can give him a call.
I'm dialing it now. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay. Hey man, listen. I used to work for a television station. Hirsch, you hear me, Hirsch?
To the house.
This is
and kind of the overall culture of the house. We want to make sure we're really clear about the culture that we're setting. We realize that for some people that culture may not be
Hi, this is Patrick.
The best fit.
Yes.
For other
Hey,
people,
Patrick.
so just have to see how that
Yes.
This is John. You're with producer host. I think you got a radio or something going on in the back.
Make sure that we're a good fit for
I
them
do.
and they're a good fit for us. But we do want to continue.
Hey, go ahead. I'm listening. Please leave a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.
The dream that I have for this.
Don't stay. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay. I was listening. I hear the radio in the background. But listen.
Well, I'm on a Zoom call with. Go ahead.
Okay. The reason why we called is that, remember I told you that you and I talked, and we were in the middle of our show, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to come in and speak about what you got going on here in Morgantown or the Monongalia County area with the potential project you have with Abundant Life Recovery House. Okay. We have Mr. Berkley also on the line with Recovery U in St. Albans in Charleston. So thanks for taking the call. Okay. Are you there, Pat?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Patrick?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you got the floor, and go ahead on and tell us about the operation with your addiction recovery program here in the Mon County area.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Patrick Vaughn, and my sobriety date is 12/28 of 2018, and for that I'm truly grateful. I got in contact kind of in a weird way with John. It was kind of like just happenstance. We are a brand new entity that's just beginning the embryonic stages of planning and putting into place men's and women's faith-based sober living homes in Morgantown called Abundant Life Recovery Homes.org. And you can go to our website, and that'll actually show you the vision of the homes. These are peer-driven, peer-led homes in Morgantown. And I think they're going to be the first faith-based type, 12-step faith-based, supported by the local community that I know of in Morgantown.
That's wonderful.
What are happening between now and your opening?
Well, we're actually in the pre-planning stages. So we just finished. We've been training. So there's 3 house managers, myself, Josh, and Jody, and we just finished our peer recovery coach classes with Health Right in Morgantown. So we're moving towards the PRC, which is the peer recovery coach type training, and as well house training through the Fletcher Group of Kentucky. We want to be there, or at least the staff, that's the board members that are above us, are wanting us to be trained and to be ready for when the homes do open. There is a home that's out by Johnson's Chapel that's going to go into place for a 6-man home, and we're just waiting for an opening date, which could be a matter of a week to 2 weeks.
How will people
that's going to be
of your services? Will they be court ordered, or they'll be able to call you from the phone book, or how will?
But both of those. So we are trying to work with the Department of Parole and Probation here, and the reentry judge, or the judge for drug court here in Morgantown. So we're trying to make those contacts, and we're trying to get into the prison system, and obviously in the jail system, and that's not an easy task, but it is something that we're working on and we're working towards. If there's a prospective client, they can go on to the website, which is, again, AbundantLifeRecoveryHousing.org in Morgantown. They can click on to any of the icons there, and it'll lead you through to make the contact and begin the application process.
Okay. And when do you expect your first house to be up? You got a date for it?
I'm saying 14 to 21 days. I mean, that's where I'm actually on another conference call, and so we're actually looking for a women's home. So as soon as we get the women's home into place, then everything will. And it's difficult renting or buying in Morgantown within a reasonable, amount of money.
Right. I remember earlier in the conversation you was telling me that you guys plan to have affordable addiction recovery treatment, and at the currently the houses that are here were kind of expensive, and I don't have a background in addiction recovery, but you shared some of that information with me. To your knowledge, how many of those things do we have here in Morgantown area?
I believe that there's 2, possibly 3, and I'm not going to throw those names out, but there's 2, possibly 3 other men's and women's sober living houses in Morgantown. But the kind of the consensus of those programs is some of them are money driven, obviously, and some of them you have to have a lot of money up front. And so we're trying to put it in place where your bed is actually going to be sponsored from an individual in the community as part of our network through Suncrest United Methodist and Abundant Life, to where the first 2 weeks would be covered and your bed would be covered, and then your basic toiletries, clothing, food, those kinds of things, so we can get you back into job hunting, getting your IDs, getting your licenses, and those kinds of things. From there, we'll be securing jobs. We're going to have people standing by to help you get plugged into good jobs, and it'll be $475 a month, and that includes all of your utilities, and that includes all of your 3 meals a week plus other entities in the home, and that's just to go for the program fees and the rent for the home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now I got to ask this question. Recently, in December of 2019, I seen where the Bartlett House, which is a homeless shelter here in Morgantown, they had an incident over there, and I think it's been reported that they shut that operation down. Is that true to your knowledge?
Well, I believe they shut that Bartlett House down, but I think they tried to reopen, or the city of Morgantown actually opened up another facility because of the homeless epidemic in Morgantown.
That's where I was leading into next. The overlap between do you see an overlap between homelessness and addiction, or addiction and homelessness? Certainly there's apparently an overlap.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I can only speak for myself because I did come off the streets. So I was pushing a basket, living behind a Target market in a cardboard box. And so I had been out on the streets this run for about 18 to 19 months. And so I came in with a plastic bag full of my belongings, 20 cents to my name, but I had the willingness and the desire to stay clean and sober and to live a different way. And so that's really what we're looking for. We're just looking for people who have the drive and the motivation and the willingness to apply themselves to a program that can potentially change their life.
Hey, that's pretty good stuff. It's pretty good testimony too. It's not church, but something like it.
Well, I say I pushed my basket in the ditch. I literally took pictures of it and posted it on Facebook. So my blanket and my pillow and my belongings were inside of a basket that I flipped upside down and said, "I'm just tired of living this way, and I don't want to live this way." And so
wow.
We want to give those people the same opportunity that we had, the same opportunities to come and find a new way to live. And I think having the heart to help people and actually genuinely care about a person's well-being is going to be something different from Morgantown.
Right. That's really interesting. Okay, now I need to ask you this. I'm not going to ask you your partners, but support system. I know pulling something off like this in Morgantown might be a little difficult, but there's a need for it. So I know you got to get some support from somebody, okay? So do you have any support from any politician or anybody downtown, anybody that has made a commitment to help you? deal with this issue?
I don't know if we've actually got a commitment yet, but I do know that it's in the works.
Okay. Now, you did mention Suncrest Church, so that's if you got a church behind you, got a support system. Okay.
Yes. Originally, the Suncrest United Methodist Church, the Celebrate Recovery group, and Pastor Matt, who's the pastor there. Originally, that's where it was going to come from, but they decided to break out and do a nonprofit 501c3 based on the Abundant Life model. So they're going to be partnering with us. They're going to be partnering with us.
Okay. Right. Understood. Okay. Well, thank you for this. Chris, do you have anything? Brother Hershey, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I thought that.
I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
We'll tying two things together. Patrick, I'm also in recovery. Hello, my name is Crystal, and I'm an alcoholic. And so I was wondering, Hershey, you mind if I call you Hershey? The faith-based recovery home that's in Charleston, I can't remember the name of it.
Recovery, yeah.
No, you're not faith-based though, right?
Oh, right. No.
Right. I think it's called the Rock House or something like that. The
Rock.
The Rock. Yeah, those guys used to come to the online meeting that I hosted that for about 4 months. And so I wanted to ask both of you all, what is happening with recovery because of COVID?
Well, as far as down here in St. Albans, in Charleston, it was a disaster for me. I finally, after a couple of months after the epidemic kicked off, I finally got with a laboratory and had them come in and test once a week. And for the first couple of months, everybody was negative. Then the first positives popped up. So I ain't got no reason to question it. I quarantined everybody 14 days and went through all the correct protocols. And second week that lab was coming in, the guy that was positive ended up negative, and then we had one more positive from another guy. So I said, oh, man, we got to start over this quarantine. So that happened like the month in a row where each week it was one different positives. And I just was very suspicious of it, honestly. And then I found out about the financial gain that's in this COVID thing too. Not saying it's not real. I was just questioning some of the motives with some of the positive results. And so I just went on and I just did away with that. And if anybody feels sick, I just take them to the hospital and get them tested. And I ain't had any problems since then. So it kept me quarantined for a few months, and I don't know if it was rightly justified support, but that's what happened with us down here.
You guys got dorm living down there, or they got separate rooms?
Separate rooms.
Okay. So I just wondered.
Well, Patrick, thanks so much for joining us. And if there's anything that we can do to help, especially when you get up and the doors are open, because I think that this platform's important not only to tell people that might have credentials and be in that workspace, especially peer recovery or area churches, also the people, like how we got to get the people in that need these programs, destigmatized, and we got to keep talking about recovery, and that, recovery is, like you said, it's life-changing. It changes your life. And once you experience that, you want to give it to everybody that you know. And so I applaud you so much for doing that. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for taking the time to learn more about us and allow me to share just bits and pieces of my recovery story as well. And I look forward to us building a relationship in the future.
Okay. Be well.
Okay, that's good news. We got your number. Have a good one, Pat.
Nice meeting everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pat.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I hope I pushed the right button.
Well,
Mr.
now,
are you still on too?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Now, Crystal, I was going to ask while we had Pat on. I didn't really get into the question of African American treatment because I'd like to develop some type of, I don't want to say use the word relationship, but some type of understanding with him before hitting him with the distinction in African American treatment and so forth, how it's necessary for, I think, a black counselor, so, to come on and deal with the specifics of addiction recovery when it has to deal with African Americans. I think there's that much of a distinction between what goes on. Because, listen, racism and all that impacts black people's mental and emotional health. You remember we did a show where we talked about Wheeling issued, the Wheeling City Council issued an edict, a declaration saying that racism impacted black people's mental health, and it was a priority to them. Remember we talked about that a while back, Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
So if racism impacts mental and emotional health, then that mental and emotional health also impacts addiction and recovery. This is why I tell you I do the detox, the periodic detox, before you get to a situation where you gotta go through recovery, if it's possible.
Well, I think one of the things, John, that we were talking about earlier, and I was sharing first with John that in part of my recovery, you have to be all in, and I didn't use a recovery house. It was just what they call white knuckle it through, and
right.
When you're desperate and you're changing your life and you're committed to that change and you're truly taking it one day at a time, and you go to a meeting and you got to be with people that, I was telling John, I'd go to a meeting and there would be a fellow there that had white power tattooed on him, but I had to put all that aside and put my recovery first, and know that I had I had to get through this moment. And I think that's a little bit confusing for people to understand, but when you're desperate to get your life together and take the steps that recovery requires, you don't have time to think about the racism within the system. And then once I got, there's no black recovery peer coaches. I couldn't get a black sponsor, couldn't get a black woman sponsor, like things that I wanted and thought would, allow me a space to talk about some of the complexities of, addiction and how it's connected to, systemic racism as a health, but I couldn't do that. But one of the things that the pandemic gifted me was the opportunity to find black meetings online all over the country, meetings led by black women, and it really was a lifesaver. And I think that is one of the hardest things getting sober in West Virginia, if you're a black person, is that there is racism within, and that's why I'm so happy that you have this recovery home, because I've heard a lot of people talk about how they're treated, women especially, in recovery homes, and that it doesn't, you're in the program teaches you can't talk about racism because that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to get you sober. But then after you get sober for a little bit, you're like, I think this racism was on my resentment list, right? So
right. Yeah. Right. What I do,
they tell you
here,
specifically that. I was telling Crystal, I was asking Crystal, do they tell you specifically in them programs, if you make a comment dealing with racism, that racism is not why we're here? You're here to deal. They tell you that they talk to you like that. I'm just saying, dude. Is that one of
depending on who the facilitator is? As far as I can't speak for Crystal, of course, but I can speak for me. As far as the general message behind that is, whoever the facilitator is, they'll approach that however they, case by case. What I do here is I just intentionally, I do very good. I have a good employees. I have 18 employees, and I would say 6 of them are black. So here in Charleston, having 6 out of 18 employees is black is pretty good ratio, and one of my therapists is black. So I try to actually, and what I do, and I don't know if this is the correct psychological ploy that maybe I should do, but the guys that I think that might have a problem, have a little racism, or just was raised and wasn't around blacks and have, judgments or whatever, I intentionally pair them up with the black therapist. I do that for at least a little while anyway, just to see. I want them to see that you can be black, be in a good position, make good money, and have intelligence, and can help you with your problem. And I use that as a ploy to maybe see that, maybe that, he gave me some great advice here. And maybe if I try it, and if it did work, if they do try it, that might bring down that defense mechanism that they built by just seeing a black face. So I play little tack. I play chess, right? I do little things here to try to match up. And I always purposely try to have black employees. I just think that they need to see black employees to know that there's a black race out here that's can do some important jobs and important things, and went to school, and it's smart.
We don't spend all our time standing on the corner. We the black people ain't spend all their time standing on the corner. We can get jobs and hold jobs, providing services that they demand. That's why I call you Mr. Berkley, because what you did, what you have done, demands respect, brother. Okay.
And that's and down here, because I get these prisons, especially in this West Virginia system, these prisons all have just got consumed with hate gangs inside of it. They're in brotherhood. You got oldness. You got actual devil.
Nobody's talking about that. Yeah. Good point. Nobody's talking about that.
Right. And that's what real huge. And more the guys that I'm getting that's coming from prisons have all these swastika and all these old devil worshiping tattoos, and they'll put them on their face and on their neck very proudly. So,
wow. From your, I need to quiz you on that. From your perspective, what's going on in the prison, in the West Virginia prison system? See, I've gotten reports that they've been letting the Aryan Brotherhood run rampant in West Virginia corrections. I've seen evidence of it in the regional jails, that they're letting it run rampant. Okay.
Well, and it is, and I'm sure that is very true. But let me ask you this: I don't know if you got 1,000 inmates in the prison, so to speak. And the guards is probably outnumbered 1 to 40, 1 to 50 now. It's very underpopulated as far as correctional staff. I don't know what they're supposed to do. They're scared to death. They're underpaid. I ain't going out there in the middle of 30 Aryan Brotherhoods and telling them get back and don't talk about black people. So I don't know what they would do. I mean, there's not enough room in the solitary confinement to lock them up. I don't know what they can do. They're starting to murder more people in prisons too. These gangs are too. The murder rate in the correctional building here went up a little bit. So I don't really know how you fix it. I mean, I know they need to do something, especially with the guys that's coming home. Most guys that are incarcerated come home. So you just let them do their 4 or 5 years, running around claiming brotherhood, and just, I don't know. They got to come up with something. I agree with you. They got to come up with something. But right now, they just don't have nothing in place.
You seen where the guards last year, you seen where the guards at the end of 2019 got busted with the Nazi salute picture.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so
okay.
So I mean, you're saying it ain't that they don't want to do nothing or can't do nothing. Hell, they part of the team. That's kind of So right. So
apparently,
it's part of the team.
Yeah, that's why ain't nothing been done because that's why ain't nothing been done because they all,
Hey, great point.
But when you do recovery, look, you had to do recovery with a known Aryan Brotherhood racist. Did you stick to the same program? Or does the fact that he's a known Aryan Brotherhood racist, does that impact you? Or you understand what I'm saying? Does the fact that you got to help someone recover?
What I'm saying is that I went to me and this man who had just saying, white power tattooed on him, the swastikas, you know what I mean? And we sat right beside each other because that, not intentionally, but, because it was a recovery meeting. and he needed to get sober, and I needed to get sober, and that's kind of in a
Right.
weird way the beauty of like recovery. But that's when you're like, So it was interesting to hear that the prison population is being overrun with white Aryan Brotherhood, because it was he was a shocking presence to me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
here is the swastika. He has white power tattooed on him. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm trying to get sober, and because at the end of the meetings, you kind of stand up and you all kind of gather around and you hold hands and you say, the Lord's Prayer, right? And
Right.
what do we? It was such a surreal experience, but it's like, now that I'm thinking about these recovery centers in West Virginia, and what you just said is pretty terrifying. That because a white Aryan brother that gets out of prison needs a job when they come home, and it seems like the job that they might be able to get is working for some of this nonsense that's going on in our country. And I just wanted to say that we're having this discussion today, and to me it's like, this is important, because even if the government is being overthrown, any person that has an addiction or a problem with substance abuse, you still got to stay sober. It doesn't matter if it's a global pandemic. It doesn't matter, you know what I mean, if there's a coup going on, or whatever challenges come. People with addiction recovery have to stay in recovery, and that means under no circumstances do you drink or use. And that's just my soapbox, because we're going to talk about recovery. Right. Talk about recovery. We got to talk about, like, it's one day at a time, and you have to own your problem. Then you have to find support, all those things. So what do you think is the most important part of the recovery process?
Well, I'm a twofold kind of guy with it. The first process I think you have to get figured out is abstinence. You just got to be away from it, because in the beginning, if you have a choice and it's around you, you're going to do it. So you have to be away from it for a month before you can actually say, it's right there and I'm not going to do it. So therefore, the first thing would be abstinence. You just have to get them away from it. If it's a recovery treatment facility like I got, or if it's some places are moving them up on the mountain, and then just to keep them away from it, or staying actually in hospitals, whatever it takes. The second process, I think, will be developing the education or some kind of like a toolbox for understanding triggers, understanding don't put yourself around nobody that's going to be using in the first place, don't be in toxic relationships, knowing that if the opportunity does come about, what do you have to do? What kind of brain set or mindset that you have to be able to say no and get away fast. So I just think that all the process from day one and to all the way up to however long you clean, you just got to get away from and occupy your time. You have to find something to do. That time that you ran around getting high or drinking, you have to find something else to do in that time. Idle time is not good. You have to find something else to do. You got to create your hobby, make your hobby your new passion if it's healthy, and spend time doing that. You got to find something to do with your time.
You know what? One of the things I did that I just want to pass on this tip because it works for me. I think it was helpful, and that was that I quit social media for the first year of my recovery, and I did that because they say you got to change people, places, and things, and I realized that social media was a place. Even though it was, my phone or whatever, it was a place, and I would go there, and I might get upset, just like, or you might go nosing on people, you might be worried about what your old friends were doing, you might be worried about what people saying, and so I just realized that was a place that I didn't want to exist anymore while I was focusing on this recovery. And so the few chances that I've got to, share my story, I always pass that on. That I had to change that place. And you might think it's just a little Facebook page or But if you go there and you get any kind of emotional reaction, or like you said, it becomes, you know, um, a place where you just put your idle time, it's not really worth it. So,
Right, I agree with all that. Yep.
I do a periodic Facebook fast. I periodically fast from Facebook myself. I tell other people to do it because you can become emotionally attached to social media where it impacts you and triggers you. You first use the word trigger, knowing your triggers.
Right. That's crucial.
Yeah.
You got to know what sparks them dopamines that makes you want to go get high. You have to understand that addiction actually changes your brain function. It really does. It eats away the part of your brain that makes choices. It really does, and that's a medical fact. And you have to be able. And it's hard to even get that back, even when you quit. It really only recovers. You only really recover a little bit. It really doesn't really fully come back. And so you have to try to muster up whatever you got left in the tank up there and try to muster up the strength to know right and wrong, because ever many years you was in addiction, that's how many years and how many brain cells that you really lost. And unfortunately, I've had a couple guys here that really was, I ain't going to say they were troublemakers, but didn't really do what I expected them to do. And after a while, I realized they gave me everything that they had because they could only give me what they got, and they could only do what they could do. I mean, my brain just wasn't highly functional on a medical level to really do. I'm very detailed oriented, and we have a very good structure and stuff. I try to anyway, and I expect certain things at certain times, and they failed the course. And then after a few months, just came to realize that it's almost like when I would talk to them, they just looked through me. It's almost like they just didn't have the function or brain power to incorporate information. And it was from the drug use. I had to realize that. And just accept what they gave me, and just knew that they gave me everything they could, and be okay with that.
Right. Listen. Here recently, there's talk of legalizing marijuana and so forth. Do you ever get any referrals for marijuana addiction, or is marijuana? Can marijuana even be an addiction? I'm asking you that, right? Because I know usually you get
addiction. Yeah, very limited referrals on marijuana. Honestly, the any referrals we've gotten on marijuana has been an upper middle class white family whose 23-year-old son is smoking marijuana, and they're like, "Oh boy, you need help. We don't do that," and actually want to pay money to send him to a treatment facility to get him off marijuana. And I've actually known a family that sent their son to Florida over marijuana use and spent like $35,000 at a Florida facility. So it's very rare.
You're not gonna get a court referral for no marijuana. You're not gonna. That's not happening.
No, I'm not gonna never get a court referral for marijuana. It's all independently owned. It would be an independent, private family that would do that, right? Yeah.
Okay. Mostly, what are you getting? Most of your referrals coming in now. What are they coming for? For what substance?
Meth and heroin.
Meth and heroin that's your biggest referrals that are coming in now. Okay.
Yeah, meth and heroin.
I want to just get my last question in, and then John, I'll let you close us out. We're running out of time here. The beep's going to kick on, but I just want to say thanks for coming on. And is there anything that the community can do to help support Recover You?
I appreciate you having me on, Crystal. Thank you for that. Wonderful show. I ain't heard nothing but great things about what y'all doing on this talk show. John had actually sent me some of the links of y'all's prior shows, and I got caught up a little bit. I'll try to be a every week listener now. I love what y'all doing, and Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yes. And as far as referrals, not refer, as far as in the community can do for us, the community already pretty good for us, really. We get donations sometimes, and the churches will come by and drop stuff off, and we got this one guy, and I don't even know who it is. He refuses to sign his name or tell me over the phone who he is, but he donates like $50 a month. He's been doing it for like 10 months, and donates it. I don't want any credit for it, and I'll get a $50 check every month in the mail, and just say, you know who it is. Then one time he left a number, and I called, and he answered, and he said, don't worry about who I am. As long as I can send you $50 a month, I will. So, so the community's been pretty good. And we've only had a couple of families around nearby that's complained, so I can't be mad, just a couple of families. Everybody say, yeah, we need help. Everybody need help, just not next door to me. So that's kind of like the theory of how a lot of people, that's their mindset on that. But I appreciate Crystal, but we're fine. And, recovery, you need any help, Crystal, I got your number now, so I'll call you if I need. Yeah.
Now, listen, man, I like that basketball court. I looked at some of the pictures on your page. I see you got a ball court. In the area that I'm in, we got a basketball court here. We got like White Park, and it's got trails, hiking trails. And I kind of envision that outside recreation, getting plenty of sun. I use that to detox, as I said earlier in the show, to make sure I don't have to go through recovery. Okay, and I'm thinking again, a hike through the woods is good for recovery. So I'm kind of Hirsch. I'm pitching you and telling you, man, come holler at me, and you know what I'm saying. I want you to see. I want you to see that we can go take a hike and get some recreation in there, because I think that's something that you can blend in with your program. We can break bread.
Yeah, there's a lot of just real quick, just elaborate on what you just said real quick. It's 8 domains to recovery, not to get in all 8, but one of them is recreation. So I think that's the number 6 or 7 on the list. So recreation, as far as men too, and women too, whatever, more men, the testosterone levels need to be out. You need to let, how we are men, we need to move and let some of that out, So recreation is crucial. That's why I built that basketball court. I knew they needed to have something to go out and get some rec and sweat and let some of that out. So, so it's crucial. I agree. Right.
All right. See, we got evidence that this brother actually cares about people and is getting things done. And, brother, that is our music, and it's been a wonderful show. Another wonderful episode of Black by God. I'm John Kemet Shabazz L. with the Shabazz Report, and we're on YouTube. You can check us out. But come see us next week when we do Black by God. All right. Peace and blessings to everyone. Have a great week. Hirsch, I got love for you, bro. All right? I'm going to holler at you.
Number love.
All right. All right. Peace out.
Talk to y'all
all right,
soon.
Crystal.
Bye-bye, John.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Next week.
Bye.